Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players, uncover their stories, and discover what makes them tick. If you love guitar, music, and the backstory of people's lives, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey, this is Craig. If you're a musician, I made a special 3-question survey for you at everyonelovesguitar.com/survey. Again, musicians only. Complete this 3-question survey at everyonelovesguitar.com/survey. Alrighty now, let's do this. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. I've got a great player and a super cool guy, and Lou Toomey is our guest today, and I want to wish him a very happy birthday. He's crazy enough to spend his birthday with me. I don't know, he must be a little twisted, but those are the guys I like. So happy birthday, Lou, and thanks for coming on the show.
You're so welcome, man.
A little bit about Lou. His first musical love was Aretha Franklin. His sister gave him Jimi Hendrix's Are You Experience for his 12th birthday. And since then, Hendrix, Clapton, and B.B. King have been his main inspiration. Started playing guitar at 14 and was playing in bands, playing everything from B.B. King to Robin Trower to Hendrix. And isn't it funny that Robin Trower is still out there playing, man?
Shit, man. Still rocking it.
I saw him like twice in the last 5 years. He sings now. He waited till he was 75 to start.
Really?
He waited till he was 75 to start singing.
We got sick of putting up with those fucking singer dudes, you know?
I guess, man. But he was rocking.
They always be somebody after they leave him. But
his first guitar was a Teisco that his mom and dad put on layaway for him. His first rock concert was the James Gang. What a baptism by fire, man, to see that as your first show. And they opened a local band from Kentucky called the Hatfield Clan, opened up, and Lou later wound up playing with the Hatfield Clan. He said that Joe Walsh was incredible, but it didn't seem fair that Lou had a Teisco and Walsh had a 59 Les Paul and a Strat.
Well, he tore the Strat up at the end. That's the deal. He took that, he did the Townsend thing.
No.
So he played the 59. I'm assuming it's a 59. No telling, because I knew he was into, vintage Les Pauls, which was vintage in 1972. It's only been a little over 10 years old, so it necessarily wasn't vintage, but he played that guitar and it was friggin' incredible. And then he picks up a Strat for the end, and hell, who knows, it might have been a 50 Strat for all I know, and he ends up trashing that son of a bitch. And
what did he close with? Did he close with like Funk 49 or?
I don't recall that.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Lou started playing in horn bands in the mid-'70s, and he was also doing session work like jingles and other, obviously, regular sessions, demos, and masters in Lexington, Kentucky, and Cincinnati, Ohio. His dad was a truck driver by trade, but he loved the Grand Ole Opry. Lou couldn't really stand country music until he found out, hey, I can make money doing this. So he started playing country around 1980, fell in love with Merle Haggard, Hank Williams, and any country that was soulful. He met Keith Whitley in the early 80s when he sat in with Lou's band. He said they would play together one day, and they did in 1988. At the time, Lou was working in a hardware store and playing on the weekends, trying to support his family when he got the call to work with Keith. They played all the Nashville network shows like the Grand Ole Opry. They went to London. He played Wembley Country Show with Keith. Unfortunately, as listeners you might know, Keith died in May 1989 from alcohol and drugs. And not only did Lou lose a friend, but, unfortunately, as you know how it goes, he was out of a job. At the time, it was a real struggle trying to make ends meet. He needed work, and he got a call from a fellow Nashville guitarist, and he took the gig. Who was it that called you?
Jeff King.
Oh, man, I love that dude.
Jeffro? I've known Jeffro since it was about 88, actually, when we were doing Austin City Limits with Keith. And he was on the show with Patty Loveless. So that's where I met Jeff. And then we crossed paths at all these little festivals and stuff at that time. And I just saw him the other night at this SKB thing that my friend Herb Schuker, he's a drummer, he's an incredible drummer, but he works for SKB. So he had this dinner in Nashville, and I saw Jeff there. We were talking about that, and I remember I would play through Jeff's rig, and he was like the aspiring session guy. So he had, it was everything the 80s had to offer. Double speakers, the Pet Fry setup, fucking huge 12, I mean, probably 15 space rack, and it was monstrous. I'd play it sometimes, and that was a time too when nobody, now people worry about their gear and having their gear. Well, that was a time, shit, man. We'd get the bus would pull up and we'd all go, and somebody'd come back in and say, well, they've got this on stage or they got this on stage, and we go, good. We don't have to move shit. It's like plug into it. That's where I met Jeff though, 88. Yeah.
That's cool. He's a really nice guy, really sweet guy, and just a good person, man.
But he did call me up, and I was in, Keith died, and that was a big tragedy. And I think everybody in their whatever decade of your life you're in, you handle death and tragedy differently, because it becomes more. As I'm 60 years old, I'm not the same guy as I was when I was in my 30s, and this happened. but it was very tragic, and it tore me up, and also lost the job. And I was, I've been a father, trying to be a dad to my wife's and my son since I was 20. So it's always been supporting that. So losing a gig, all that stuff, it was a big deal. It was a huge deal for me. But my man Jeff, he threw me a gig. He said, hey, I got a call and I needed work. And if you're not in Nashville and you need work, nobody gives two shits about you, because then who cares?
Yeah.
Some guy in Kentucky. Yeah, there's not very many of those. And he called me up, said, you want to do this gig? I said, yes. And next thing, it was another classic. It's such a story too, because it was, if you want to move on to that, talking about that Kershaw, which I couldn't even say his name for fucking years because it was too much. It was such a dark.
Oh yeah. Let's hold on to that, because I want to ask you about that. I want to ask you about that in the interview. I have some questions on that. So the gig that Lou is talking about, he got, was working with Doug Kershaw, the Crazy Cajun, and he's in his bio. It says it was the longest 3 months of his life.
Insane.
But the payoff was the last gig, which was in Japan, and they traveled to Japan with the Texas Tornadoes and had a great hang. Right. In the early 90s, Lou then worked with James House live and in the studio, and he started doing publisher demo sessions. And after that, in 93, Faith Hill's producer and boyfriend at the time called Lou to audition for her, and he toured with her in the beginning of her career in 93 through the early 2000s, and he got the opportunity to record with Faith as well. While recording with Faith, obviously they were openers for tons of really popular acts, one of them being Brooks and Dunn. Ronnie Dunn dug Lou's playing, and he told Faith, he said, I'm going to steal Lou. And sure enough, in 2001, Brooks and Dunn hired Lou as their second electric guy. Played sold-out shows everywhere on the Neon Circus tour, and pretty much every newcomer in country opened for them. He also did some studio recording with Brooks and Dunn, and in 2006, after 5 years, the other guitarist quit, and Lou became the lead electric player. In 2008, they did a tour with ZZ Top, and he got to meet and become friends with one of his musical heroes and influences, of course, Billy Gibbons. And then Brooks and Dunn ended in 2010 for Lou after 10 years. After that, he worked with Ronnie Dunn, both touring and in the studio from 2011 to 2013. He played on an acoustic vocal track called The Cost of Living, which was nominated for a Grammy. And he also played with Lori Morgan and Pam Tillis in 2014. And he started touring with Mo Pitney in 2015. And they got a record coming out soon. Lou will talk about that later. And he also works some with Lee Nash, who's from Sixpence None the Richer, and also does occasional sessions and live outings. Man, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Lou. I'm looking forward to this.
You're so welcome.
Man, let's talk about the Crazy Cajun now, Doug Kershaw. So for those people who don't know about Doug, can you just first tell who he is and then why you refer to your experience with him as the 3 longest months of your life?
Well, I mean, I always tell the story because what cracks me up is when you start thinking about what you do, and I think about Doug Kershaw, and I think about that moment in time when I needed to work, I needed a gig, and that's all this is about. It's such a simple thing. You need money, you need food, I got to take care of my family. My wife worked, but I still needed work, and so when I got the call And I said, yeah. And then the tour manager, the road manager in that day, they didn't say tour manager, it was road manager. He called me up and told me, yeah, so I'll overnight you these tickets and you'll be on a plane tomorrow morning. And I did. And I got on a plane, never knowing who Doug Kershaw was. Not really. I don't know. Who gave a shit? I don't give a shit. But the next thing you know, I get on a plane. I fly to Denver. His name was Dave Phelan. I think Dave's passed now. Rest in peace, Dave. But Dave picks me up, we're out in a car to Greeley, Colorado. And I get up there. I've never heard any Doug Kershaw music yet. Because this is the time when that's the luxury we have now. Everybody's so globally connected and everything. If I want to hear Craig Garber's music right now, then shit, I can find it.
Yeah, all right.
And so I hadn't heard any music yet as I pulled into the Doug Kershaw's ranch in Greeley, Colorado, with a family outing of all these people, and it's this big food, and here's this I've never met. I don't know any of these people, man. It was batshit crazy when I think about the story. Then I end up at the hotel, not hearing any music yet because everybody was there for Doug's golf tournament the next day. And so now I'm at this place. I've not heard anything yet. I'm, not really. I'm kind of worried, but not really. I don't know. And I ended up that night getting shit faced with the guy from Al from Home Improvement. Me and Al, and then the classic was I think it was from Green Acres. I don't know if you remember that TV show. Yeah,
it's a place to be.
The county assessor, Hank, I think's his name on the show. But we all just got hammered there, man, and woke up the next day. Never heard any Doug Kershaw yet. Get in a car, go to the gig, and next thing I know, I'm in a trailer with a bunch of Tommy Cash, Johnny's brother. And this artist from the Opry and that artist from the Opry working up songs, writing charts for songs to do. And I'm like, I've not heard Doug yet. So it was just such a bizarre, start for a gig and then as I got into the gig, it was crazy because, we're also, if you work for a living playing guitar, then, if not necessarily work for a living, you want to be in tune. And we all have our tuners, and we're all eyeballing our tuner and all this shit. Well, that was my biggest mistake with Doug Kershaw because he is not in tune. I mean, at least properly, as they say. But I look back and reflect back, and I go, well, he was actually. They were on it. I wasn't on it, or Doug was on it because I was trying to think in terms of something. I just needed to tune to the band, right. Not to a tuner. But I remember the first. I caught shit about being out of tune, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I'm looking at my tuner. I'm in. But once again, you learn those lessons in life. Started the gig, did one gig up at some Indian casino somewhere. Left, got through that night, and I told the guys in the band, I said, "Man, I'm out. I can't do this shit. I'm not going to do this." But the dudes the band guys were so cool, and I dug them. And so I stayed 3 months of doing every B casino job there was in the out west. The payoff was Japan. It was Charlie Nagasaki, I think. It's Nagatina or Nagasaki. Probably Nagatina, not Nagasaki. But it was his country festival. And they have it in, Mount Fuji. So you're like looking at Mount Fuji at the gig and, on stage.
So it's beautiful, I would imagine.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. It was a great, and I wanted to do that for that reason, man. I was like, I'm going to finish this freaking gig. That was my last gig. I had a camera because I had a little camera up on my amp, and I was taking pictures that were on stage, and this was it, But the Texas Tornadoes were on this show too, and we got to hang in Tokyo. And once again, I'm not afraid to party, and I did with those guys, and we went to every cigar bars and. Augie Myers, Freddie Fender, Doug Somm, you just naming off these dudes, and these great guys, and the band guys were great. I made a big friend with Flacco because Flacco, I went up front to get a drink out of a cooler on one of these day coaches, and Freddie Fender goes, "Hey Lou, get Flacco a beer while you're up there." I did. I brought it back, and it was like I'd befriended the lion by pulling out the thorn out of his paw. He goes, "Oh, I love you so much." So I see Flacco years later in like Nashville down at, and and it was like this friend that he's like, "Oh, Lou, I love you so much." He's never had forgot that beer I gave him, But that was my deal. And man, I finished that gig and it was classic. It was not classic and tragic at the same time. Get home. My wife and daughter picked me up at the airport. And then they informed me that our dog, Katie, which was a black lab that we had, got hit by a car and died.
Oh, man.
And between not having a friggin' gig and my dog dying, and it was like,
yeah, that sucks. That's so awful man, I've buried 3 pets in the last 18 months. It's terrible, man. It's awful.
Same here. We have 3 dogs. We just had to put that in the last year. 3 older pets that we love dearly. I mean, and cried like a baby with these, these are our kids, man. So,
yeah, it's terrible, man. It's really.
But I want another one. My wife says no. She says, "I'm tired of cleaning up hair and shit." And I'm like, and I get it. I mean, I get it. There's so much work, and but it's. I guess once again, it's like if you don't love, you don't get. If you don't, that's what I view these animals as, man. Yeah. It's just something you can help them out, and they help you, and. Yesterday saw a couple of dogs. I was outside doing some leaf work, and I look up and I see 2 black lab kind of dogs walking around, and they were kind of pittish too. Had a pit head,
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I said, "Hey, come here, bud," because I want to find out where they're from, and I got a collar. And we found them, but they were the biggest, lovingest. Got in the back of the car with me. Had no problem doing any of that. It wasn't standoffish, but.
Oh, so you took them back home?
Took them back home.
Are you still in Kentucky, or are you in Nashville?
No, I live in Fairview, Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah. How far out of Nashville is that?
Fairview's about maybe 35, 40 minutes.
Okay.
I lived in Franklin for about 18 years, and we just moved here about 3 years ago. And it's a little west and a little south of Franklin or Nashville.
So away from the traffic, close enough and far enough.
Almost too far. And once again, I preface this by saying this is my destiny. But I look back at my career and I go, Franklin was, I could have lived in friggin' Georgia or Tennessee, Georgia or Kentucky or anywhere else because, 20 miles away is like it takes an act of Congress to get my ass to get up and go somewhere. Do something. I hear Jimi Hendrix has came back to life, and he's doing a concert tonight. And I don't really give a shit. I'm not going.
So you're a homebody.
To a fault, yeah, man.
It's tough. I know. I work at home, so I go to the gym every day. That's like other than that, it's tough to get out. So I feel you on that. Yeah. Man, you played loads of big TV shows like Tonight Show, SNL, The View, Today. But I think you have a good story to tell about the time you were on Letterman's. If you could share.
Oh, yeah. I do actually, and I wanted to tell you, it's a great story because if you've ever done this kind of work, Faith, when she started her career, of course, David Letterman. Why wouldn't you not love Faith? I mean, my God, she's stunningly beautiful. Yeah. The first when I auditioned for Faith, I came home and Diane said, "How'd it go?" I said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I got the fucking gig or not." But I said, "But I tell you one thing, she's one of the prettiest women I've ever seen in my life."
Yeah, she's a pretty woman.
But move up ahead, she had super success right out of the gate, so I was fortunate in that regard. But we do all these network TV shows, the Lettermans and the Lenos, and we did them probably twice a year. So you do the math, that's a lot of TV shows with her, just those 2 shows. And but we were up there to play. And it was just myself and a steel player named Gary Carter, and he was the band leader with Faith. So we went up there to play with Paul in the band, Paul Schaefer in the band, and that was cool. And rental and from SIR, that's what you did in the day. And I had a twin, I had a tube screamer, a twin, and a cord. That was it, and a battery. And so. That was the rig. The guitar tech was on the show, helped me out. That was no big deal. They set it up and tear it down and stuff like that before the actual performance. So I go out and do sound check. Everything's cool. we do a song called Take Me As I Am, and the intro's all guitar, the middle section's all guitar, and the outro's all guitar. And so we wait till showtime. Showtime, I walk out, the classic deal. You got about 2-minute changeover, and I walk out, and there's Letterman sitting over at the desk, and I think it was another stunningly beautiful model sitting at the table. I remember that. I forgot her name, but now they're counting. Then I go to check the amp. It's not working. The light's on. The amp's not working. I'm holding the guitar. I've got one cable, one tube screamer, and one patch cable, and I still can't get anything. And next thing you know, where I'm plugging this, now it's 30 seconds. Now it's 20 fucking seconds, and here we go, ladies and gentlemen, Faith Hill, and all I could do, I couldn't believe it. I was like, you got to be shitting me. I'm going to not be able to play. So I air guitared the whole damn thing. And man, I looked good doing it. Well, I really did look good looking back. I looked like I was wearing a tent. But
so how is the noise? How is the music coming out?
Well, it didn't come out. I just air guitared it. I faked it the whole way through and acted like I played the whole damn thing. So I can't believe that I would be that smart. So when that song's over, thank you very much. And I walk off stage and I'm like, I see Sid, the guitar player. I'm like, man, I got to borrow your amp. He goes, man, you sounded great. I'm like, and Paul was like, you sounded great. Yeah. That kind of thing. And I wasn't on. It was that. And make a long story short, we walked downstairs. Michael was the engineer on the show at the time. And I told him, I said, I need to overdub my guitar. And he goes, well, they don't do that many overdubs on these shows.
Yeah.
And he goes, man, it won't work because it'll never sync up. I said, trust me, it'll sync up. So I went upstairs, just me, the twin that's now working. I reached back. I remember at the show, I reached back and the pilot light was on. All switches are in, let's go mode, but the tubes were cold. So it lost, it was bad connection in the heaters or whatever, heating up these 606.
Holy shit.
So now it's working and I'm up there, man. And it's just me. I'm in the Ed Sullivan Theater by myself. There's a monitor guy up in the balcony. And then they did a voiceover thing for, some kind of, and then they were like, had the song play back at me. I did one pass, man. Of course, I bummed a cigarette because I was a king of bumming cigarettes from anybody in my vicinity. I bummed a cigarette and smoked a cigarette there on stage as I was playing this song, and got to mix the show. Gary and I got to mix our portion of it with the engineer that night, and but that was my story.
Holy shit! Did Faith know that?
Nobody. There you go. Therein lies the. Are you really telling me the truth? Did you really hear me? Do you really know what's happening here? No, she didn't really know.
Wow.
Maybe she thought she just didn't hear it in her in-ear monitors.
Right.
Therein lies that story, which is still another. They're incredible for a lot of things, but for some things they're not. And that's what happened.
Holy crap, man! That is wow.
Yeah, I just always thought it was a great story because it's not playing a heart. None of this shit, you just hang on, make this thing happen, and that's what I try to do. But
the fact that you played it off, it shows you a lot of what people hear. They see people hear with their eyes.
Yeah,
so that's pretty crazy, man. Now it's everybody I've talked to, and I think Jeff was one of them. It's freezing on that studio, from what I hear.
Yeah, it's a nice box. Well, truly, I wasn't freezing that night.
Oh, I'm sure you're probably shitting your pants. Oh my God, yeah. Oh.
The flop sweat, yes.
Man, great story. Talk about, if you can, I'm going to say some names of artists you've worked with. You could talk about a cool or interesting story about working with them, and if we haven't talked about it already, how you got the gig originally. Start with Keith.
With Keith, well, Keith happened, first off, early 1980s, I was playing country music and now started probably playing in the early 80s with country music. And my friend Larry Redmond, I was playing. And herein lies how you meet someone and someone else's connection meets somebody else. So Larry calls me up to come play with him. And I remember pulling up in front of his girlfriend's house, and the garage door was open. It was a summer day, and I walk up and I see Larry, and then I met this guy named Carson Chamberlain. And Carson's a steel player. I didn't know it, but he had just been out of the Marines a couple of years, and he just started playing steel 2 years ago or something like that. And so we started playing in this band with Larry. And and then the gig, whatever changed around, Carson and I kept on playing together with another singer because Larry was out of the picture. And we were playing in Richmond, Kentucky at a place called the Maverick Club. And this, oh my God, this part of Kentucky was, it's slash college town slash hillbilly. And I'm talking about like redneck, cut your ass up hillbilly.
Wow.
You'll be lost in the woods for sure.
Holy shit.
Yeah, exactly. And I have more stories about that place that, about car. But so we played in there at this club, and we opened up for Skaggs when they were doing, all the great stuff with Ray Flack, and that's when I decided I should probably stop playing guitar, because after hearing Ray play, it was like, oh, fuck me, man. That's not, I don't know how to do that. So that's where I met I ran up with Carson. Keith would come in there. He came in that bar. Carson knew Keith.
Was he from Kentucky?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Keith was from, Sandy Hook, Kentucky.
Okay.
And Sandy Hook, Kentucky, Keith Whitley, he was already a legend in bluegrass music because, Ralph Stanley had Keith, and in fact, I've been listening to Ralph Stanley's stuff lately, and it's old school, what's the word they use for, whatever, stuff about bluegrass music. He was old school bluegrass, and he had Keith and Ricky Skaggs when they were just teenagers playing with him. So the level of talent was pretty incredible. So Keith's in the bar. Carson knew Keith and loved him and loved that stuff. And he had Keith sit in with us, and Keith would come up and sit up and sing something like a Haggard song or something like that. And absolutely. And I always thought, man, God, that dude, one of these days, man, he's going to be something, because he had a smile that wouldn't stop, and he could sing a song just kill you. And that's where we met. And that's actually where he told me, he said, one day we'll work together. He loved my playing. So that was that.
That's a common thing with you, man. Everybody likes your playing, comes over to you and says, hey, one day we'll work together. And they do. Truly. And by two great voices too, and I even told Ronnie Dunn, because I view Ronnie's tone, man, it's like the shit. If you know anything about what great country voices are, Ronnie's got one, and he had one, and both of them say the same thing. So I don't know what that means. They have a lack of judgment, I guess. Maybe. But that's how I met Keith. That's how we worked together. And then I'm still working. Shit, man, I'm just playing in bars. I'm playing in horn bands. I'm playing in country bands. I'm doing all that. I'm working at a hardware store trying to feed my family. Yeah. And then I got a phone call to go play with Keith, and it happened. Unfortunately, through the guitar player, it was a bass player, and I'm not going to give his name, but he played with Keith, and he was big buddies with Keith, and then later on he wanted to play electric with him, and he did, and he was playing then, but there was a bunch of crap that went down, and there was some rules laid down, and he didn't want to follow from what I understand, and I don't know if this is fact, it's kind of fact, but not fact. He didn't want to follow the rules. He had a deadline to follow these rules, but he felt like he didn't have to. He didn't want to or didn't have to. And, he stood by his guns, and more power to him for standing by his guns, but his decision not to stay with him and follow this led to me getting the gig. And I got it, and I was the newbie, and I started with Keith, and never, and then
as I got that gig and I left my hardware job, and I'm like, shoot, fuck, this is the big time, baby.
Yeah.
I'm going to Nashville, because that's the only way you can get to Nashville. In my life, you either had to be a virtuoso, and I'm talking about somebody that was so undeniably talented that, you'd go, oh my God, we're gonna put you on an album, and you're gonna be this. And no, I wasn't that. I'm just a worker ant that just kept working.
Yeah.
Actually had something to say, but so with that happening, I think about being with him. If I got off track here, I think I'm getting lost in my thoughts here a little bit. But
no, it's okay, man. You're probably thinking about Keith. That was a, big thing and big loss. So it's totally cool.
Well, so I get the job. I go with him. It's. I learned so much about the business, and it wasn't really anything major. It was just, the ins and outs of daily touring. And you learn quickly, and great stories. This whole thing's about stories. It's not about the gigs for sure. Gig ain't got shit to do with it. But the stories of getting to and from, and the brotherhood of it, and with him, it was just straight up. I learned my first lesson about being ready for the gig, being ready for, I'm out there. We're playing the USS Independence in San Diego, and we're doing a show in the hangar of this aircraft carrier. And then I'm up there, and the first song that we're going to do is a song called Miami, My Amy. And it's capoed at F, and it's got this, droning kind of string thing that you do. And I'm up there, and I'm not prepared. I'm not, next thing you know, they're going, ladies and gentlemen, Keith Whitley. And I'm like, shit, why wasn't I up here like 20 minutes ago tuning my guitar, and all this kind of stuff. And after that, man, you'll never see me not on stage doing my shit. Because if you get punched in the balls, you're gonna not get punched in the balls again if you can help it.
Oh, hell yeah. So that was that was really good seasoning for you as a road musician. Yeah,
it was a very good seasoning, and he was incredible, and he couldn't pick up. He was just a sweet dude, man, just a sweetheart of a guy. And, God bless him. He's rest in peace.
Yeah, man. I know it was a long time ago, but I'm sorry for your loss. I know it, I know it was tough for you.
Man, I thought about Troy Gentry. Troy, did you know who Troy was? Montgomery Gentry guys.
Yeah, I know that name for some reason.
Yeah, well, they're a country, whatever you want to call it now, country act out of Nashville. And they've been around now they were around for almost 20 years. I mean, I don't know how long it's been, but pretty good, pretty big success. Duo of the year one year. I beat out Brooks and Dunn, back all that kind of crap. And Eddie Montgomery is John Michael's brother. And John Michael was both Eddie and John are friends of mine. And I didn't tell you about that. I played in a bar with those guys, and Troy was another young fella that came in and aspirations of being a country star and all those things. And Troy used to come down and ride with me when I'd go down to Faith's rehearsals because I was living in Kentucky at the time. And but last year, Troy died in a helicopter crash.
That's why I heard his name. Someone was telling me this story. Yeah, man.
He died and just complete, got into a helicopter with a guy at a gig somewhere that was going to show him this thing. And next thing you know, they go into the ground, I guess. Fuck. But I talked to him 2 weeks before that. He called me 2 weeks before that, and I think it was about giving me shit for being a liberal, and which was the classic deal. And I didn't talk to Troy that much anymore. Even when those guys, Montgomery Gentry opened up for Brooks and Dunn early on in the Neon Circus tour, and it was always a party. They were like a fucking rolling. Nobody had nothing on those guys. Moonshine and partying is what they did. And so him and I just didn't, Eddie and I were always buds and always hooked up, but Troy, we didn't. So to get a phone call from him to give me shit about being a liberal and to also tell me, and which I said, I'm just an American, man. I don't know about anything about that other shit. But So he was talking, before 2 weeks before he died, man, he was telling me about wanting to go help people up in Lexington and do benefit concert and good stuff, And then I was in Switzerland playing with Mo Pitney when I got the news that he died in a helicopter crash. So all that reason I'm saying all this is because that trauma, I felt that trauma that I went through with Keith from those guys, and I didn't go, and I regretfully didn't go to his service or anything like that because it's just too damn close to home for me.
Yeah.
It's because people that and you love, you better say it because it's going by quick, and you might not ever have the opportunity to say it again. So.
Man, I agree with you 100%, and I think, and I'm surprised. One thing about this, talking to all musicians, there are at least the guys I've spoken to, the guitar players, are very vulnerable and very open. And I noticed that I've become more of that way and that's not my nature. I'm normally like super friendly, warm, but I'm not as open like that. And I'm enjoying it. Mm-hmm. And I've become more that way with people I've known forever. And some of them said something to me like, hey, man, you're a lot nicer. Not nicer, but you're just a lot more vocal. And it feels good.
Well, man, we're all evolving,
Yeah. Yeah, very much.
Evolution is something we don't see from our eyes. So, man, I'm the same way. I'm an open book. And unfortunately, to a fault, sometimes because somebody can just say, hey, I'm over there. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear it's a blessing and a curse. Believe me, I've been like this my whole life. It's good and it's good when they agree with you, bad, not so good when they don't. Hey, but
my daughter's the same way.
Yeah,
just absolutely, open book. So,
and you were a young dad. You said you had your first child when you were 20.
Well, I met my love of my life, which is my wife Diane, in junior high school, and she came around to our mom and dad's house, my older sister, so they kind of knew each other a little bit. And, I'm the chubby kid in Lexington who wanted to, and I just fell in love with her from then on. And then we ended up being married in when I was 28. In 1982 is when we got married, and we've been married ever since. And before that, though, we were together since 76. So she had a 5-year-old son named Harold Christopher. And I was, I loved her. So that's my boy. So we've been,
man. So you've been married since 82?
Yes. Well,
so you've been married, let's see, 94 is 20.
You can't see that, but that's my mark on my wrist.
10, yeah, man, that's cool. I saw that before. I was wondering what that was. So 82.
It's some kind of prison shit. No, it's just how long I've been married.
Hey, I don't judge, man. It's all right if you did get out of prison. Hey, but at least you're not thinking, because some guys, especially at our age, man, you hear people bitching a lot, like, oh, this is my time I got married. And they'll tell you it's like being in prison. I'm not like, thank God I don't feel that way. And it sounds like you don't either. But 82, good Lord, man. So that's like, what, 37 years?
Yes.
Man, that is so cool, man. That is really nice to hear. That's great, man.
Well, it's not a fairy tale. It's like absolute, once again, it's like a roller coaster, and hang on, because there's going to be some real deep shit that's going to happen, and
oh yeah, man, you
survive it, and thank God I've survived it, and
yeah, that's great.
But
I've been with my wife 26 years. But people say to you, they say, how do you do it? And people ask me, and I'm like, man, work real hard, but I think there's some serendipity and luck involved.
Yeah, I agree.
Always.
And listen, let me say, I'm not, hey, not judging, but I'll judge I've been a character, So thank God she still loves me.
That's good, man.
Thank God she still does. But it reminds me of it was an interview with Olivia Harrison, and I don't know much about George Harrison, but I know I love George Harrison, and at least what I see of George Harrison. But the backside of George Harrison, I think he's kind of a edgy kind of dude, and probably a little bit of a womanizer and all that thing. From what I understand, I don't know this for a fact, but
yeah.
They said somebody asked me one time, how did you stay married so long? And she goes, we didn't get divorced.
Yeah, man. Someone else told me that. Yeah, I heard that.
I mean, come on. That's as plain and simple as it is.
Right.
And man, I don't know.
I know. I feel you, man. You got to work hard at it. But you know, I'm lucky. We still laugh all the time, and I'd rather be with her than anybody else, man. So I'm very lucky guy, man. And congratulations too. That is a fucking long time, man.
Thank you.
Faith Hill, you auditioned for that? You talked about that. Any cool stories about working with Faith, or about? I know you got. Let's go to Brooks and Dunn, man, because you can have a ton of cool stories about.
Well,
that.
I mean, the Faith stories are just. I mean, it goes. There's so many stories and so many gigs and so many incredible events and things like that I remember in my life there, and I love her today dearly, and would take a friggin' bullet for her. She was so good to my family, and she's that girl, you know, and her and Tim both, even though Tim and I always say this because Tim would whip my ass right now, but when their dating started, Craig, it was a classic because we drink too. That's all we, you know, drink, party. And Tim was like the guy that was dating your sister, you know. You knew this shit was going on. You didn't really like it, but it was happening.
Right.
And, he came over to the bus. You know, he came over to the bus one night, and next thing you know, we're doing a damn, you know, wrestling match in the front lounge, and I knocked him back where he knocked the cap off his tooth. It was
holy
classic.
Shit.
I mean, but we just, you know, it was just the way it was, and just how you rolled hard that way. But Timmy, I regret that. I shouldn't have said Timmy. Tim is a good dude, and Faith's a great woman. And the gigs, and all the way up to our last gig. You know, my last gig with her, and I think I told you this, was Saturday Night Live. And she called me up after the actual formal touring days were over for everybody. And she called me up and said, I want you to do, when you want to do Saturday Night Live with me. I was like, hell yeah.
That's cool.
You know, that's one of those iconic shows like Austin City Limits and SNL. And I did Austin City Limits with her. I did it with all three of these artists we're talking about, Keith, Brooks and Dunn, and
wow.
Faith.
That's awesome, man.
And they all thought I was too loud, which I thought was bullshit. Since fuck, this is the stage where Stevie Ray Vaughan and Eric Johnson play guitar.
Yeah,
yet
man.
I'm too loud.
No such thing.
Yeah, so she, you know, those she did so much stuff, and we did SNL and all this, and I was with, and this is classic because Dan Huff was playing guitar.
Wow.
And Michael Thompson.
Oh.
I'm the guy in the middle.
Wow. I didn't know Michael Thompson played with her.
Well, you know, when she finished, you know, it's like a lot of these the session guy / she was in LA. I think she cut a record. When she cut that record, Michael was on it. Paul Bushnell was playing bass, and Dan and they played on the record. So she got them because she didn't have the proper touring band. Okay. She had those guys do these gigs with her.
Wow.
And so I went and did the gigs with them, and it was a blast. And you know, to do SNL and all that stuff. You know.
Did you ever tour with both Tim and Faith?
No. Okay. Well, no. They actually, that's how she. I mean, if you say. We opened up for Tim, and it, you know, even up to the Soul to Soul tour, which I did the first one, and they've done I think 2 or 3 since then. But it was Faith always basically opening up for Tim, and Tim was, you know, hey, the girls liked him, and that's what sells in this business. And Faith had a great band. We were, you know, we listened to show tapes every night, and we had a guy named Buford Jones, and Buford was a mix engineer that. You know, his resume. I remember the night, by the way, actually, and the night that, because I'd heard that Buford, he'd done Pink Floyd. He was the mix guy for Pink Floyd, live guy.
Holy shit!
He just started naming Jeff Beck, Pink Floyd. Let's see, what's a shit?
Dude, that's some serious.
Oh, I know.
Firepower there, man.
We're in the back of the bus. And I remember it as clearly as day going over the Hoover Dam, and we're smoking a joint in the back of the bus, and I'm with Buford, and I'm being my Kentucky self. I looked at Buford. I said, "Now you you toured with Pink Floyd. Bullshit. You did not do that. And I'm like busting on him hard. And it was just the truth of it. It's just how people get in the business. You know, he moved to Nashville and he went out with faith and he liked doing it and he liked the people and, you know, all that stuff. But he's an incredible master at that sound engineer game, you know.
That's incredible, man. Do you know John Prestia?
Oh, yeah.
John helped me get that guitar, that 335 right there. When I was in Nashville, he hooked it up.
Yes.
He's like the MacGyver of guitars, man.
He's a good dude, man, and sings and plays and does his thing. And, you know, he's been with McGraw and Faith, I think, for, God, I mean, all these people have been there forever now. And I start thinking about the new guys have been there for, it's like the Ronnie Wood story, you know, 18, 19 years, and here's a new guy. But, yeah, so.
One question about Keith. Were you surprised when Keith passed?
You know, I wasn't. Oh, no, I was surprised when Keith passed. Once again, I'm not smart enough not to be surprised and understand what was going on because I didn't know about his issues with alcohol till I was riding to a gig with the drummer Bruce and the bass player Mike. We're in a car going to drive to Louisville, Kentucky, and this is like maybe my second gig. And they started telling me the story of when they were on the West Coast, that Keith, they had to absolutely subdue Keith and keep him locked into a hotel room because he was drinking everything under the kitchen sink. And he was so bad. You know, it was so sad.
That's tough, man.
So I found it, man, it was like getting your bubble, you know.
Yeah.
There's your big gig, but son, this is what we're dealing with. But when I was working with him, I never really got that. Only towards the end did I see him ever once, and I think he'd been drinking. He was on his own bus at that time, which was another big fault, which, you know, once again, that's his destiny. But, you know, he didn't need to be alone.
Yeah.
Because that created that more alone, and that's what he did was drink when he was alone.
Which is probably why he was on his own bus.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but it did surprise me, and I remember the day I found out, which was the way I found out, and this is 1989, was I came home from the road. The last time I saw him was in Brazoria, Texas, playing a gig. I just got a brand new Eric Clapton signature Strat, red one.
There you go, man.
Man, I was so happy I got this guitar. And it was sitting on a stand and it fell off the stand and hit the deck. And Keith just absolutely about shit himself laughing. You know, it was the funniest thing that ever happened to him. I think it just made him give him something to laugh about on stage. And I remember that. Then I saw him in front of the bus that night. And then I go home and then I have to now drive back to Kentucky. And there was a Monday, I think, and I went to do some business at the bank. It was rainy. I had my daughter in the front seat. She had only, you know, now she just maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9 maybe. And I'm listening to country music radio, and it comes on the news that Keith had died. That's where I heard it was on the radio.
Holy crap.
And I rolled the window down and had to take a deep, breath of air because I was like, oh, fuck. You know, I couldn't believe it, man. But it was, that's how I heard about it. So it didn't surprise me yet. I guess it did surprise me.
Yeah. Wow. You work with Billy Gibbons a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like learn anything from him or just observe anything?
Yeah, I did actually. I mean, I don't look good in pajamas. Billy Gibbons, man. Oh my God. That was, to me, was absolutely, you know, we got to do a Crossroads. There was a television show on at back in the, I can't figure when the date was, but it was called Crossroads, and it was on CMT, I think. And they would do these different acts with, you know, like put up this particular pop artist with this country artist or whatever. So they did that with Brooks and Dunn and ZZ Top. And when that first happened, I was like, oh, bullshit. They're not going to do that. Brooks and Dunn and ZZ Top. I mean, ZZ Top to me was like this band. I remember, man, it was like, to me, it was like Hendrix, Clapton, Beck, Page, Billy Gibbons.
Yeah.
You know, that dude was right in that top list, and I couldn't believe that we're gonna, we'd do something with him. So we did, and it was good. And it was cool shit that he said to me, and I enjoyed it. And then later on in 2008, they toured together, and ZZ opened up for us on this tour, and I met Billy, and I had a 412 cabinet turned around backwards. I was playing a white SG, and he had come out and leaned over my amp, man, at sound check and shit like that. And I got the best note from him one time. The note he sent me, I'll show you the note. It said, and he was he goes, a little picture of him, by the way, that he signed, and he goes, "Great tone, LT." Wow. And that was his thing to me. And that, to me, that is like this, wow. That's
holy crap. That's
told me that. But so we made a friendship, and I used the phone to ring, and it would say BFG on my phone, and I'd go, and I would seriously go, I'm like looking at my phone. I'd step back and go, what the fuck? And I would hear Billy, and we talked about a lot of stuff, and CMAs. We did the CMAs together in Nashville. I sat on the bus, and I go, man, what'd you play on that first record? What amp were you? And
that's what I would want to know. Like those early records.
Yeah,
fucking just happening, man.
He told me he got a Marshall from Jeff Beck when he was the Moving Sidewalks, I guess, were the band he was with, and they were
it was before
moving gear for him and stuff, and whatever Beck gave him an amp, something like that. He used that some on that record. Of course, recording is like, I don't know, man. What shit did I do? I don't know. I mean, it's not like some kind of go-to. You got to use exactly this same rig every time you do something. It's, when you're painting pictures. So,
yeah.
But that's what I think about him. And I also think Tom has a way of him not giving a shit really what he played back in that first record.
Yeah. Well, he's done so much stuff. It's incredible, man.
I was just fortunate and still blessed to be in that little circle with him for that short amount of time I was. And, I've got a great video of him too, man. Here's what the deal is. So you see Billy play and you go, oh, he's playing. He uses I think at the time, a JMP1 preamp, and he was, doing some powered Marshall power amps, do a 112 cabinet that was ISO'd, and he plays eights, and it's very oversaturated. And I ain't gonna say it's bad because it ain't my place to judge a man on his tone.
Yeah.
But he did, and he plays and he does a lot of finger pointing, and he's doing all this stuff, and he's doing his showbiz stuff, that all the great blues dudes did. So with that being said, I go, I want to hear and a friend of mine shot a video of Ronnie Dunn in the studio, and it was with Terry McBride. Greg Morrill was a drummer that was there, and Billy Gibbons. And Billy was cutting on this song of theirs. And Billy had stopped by Ronnie's Barn, and Ronnie's Barn is a really great studio, and he got Ronnie's Blues Junior, and Ronnie had a Les Paul that it's a wrap tail P90 Les Paul from the custom shop, and he got the guitar and stopped and bought a Fat Boost, I think is what he got, and he went to this session. So I got the video of him at this session, and when he's there, man, it is Billy Gibbons from that first record.
Wow.
Because it's just a matter of, it's just in the hands. It's just what, the gift is the ears and the hands, and that's where it channels through,
Yeah.
But he did it. So I got that video, and it's always cool to hear it and go, man, there you go. That's exactly what it's supposed to sound like,
I always loved that. I think it was Tresson. What was the album with this open, the double, and it had it was the album you looked at when you were high. It had all the giant Mexican meal in it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Tres Amigos?
Yes. I think that was the first record that I ever heard, I think.
It's like the
greatest
album.
And absolute, and I don't know about how other people think anymore or whatever, but I remember as being this, when you're the cork sniffing young guitarist about your band, and I remember how much I disliked Leonard Skinner because they're not the fucking Allman Brothers, man, And then I look back in time and I go, wow, they're an incredible band.
Yeah.
And that's when I think about Billy. I remember hearing Billy for the first time, and me and my buddy, who was the drummer that lived over behind me in our neighborhood, and his dad was a guitar player. I was saying in that actual, but he was the same guy. That's I remember having that snobbery going, well, he's no Jimmy Page. He's no, and then later on I find out, no, he's bad to the friggin' bone. And, I loved everything about him, every note he ever played. So
yeah, great player, man.
But he gave me a guitar. I got a great story on the guitar.
Yeah. Billy gave you a guitar?
Oh yeah, man. It was a classic. It was a classic, good story. That day that I was at CMA's, he just now had his pearly gates come out. The custom shop was doing a run of his guitar. So I'm on stage. I'm like, man, I think Ronnie was playing a pearly gates, which he was holding a pearly gates. Ronnie doesn't really play. And I was like, damn, I fucking want one of those guitars so bad, man. And Billy goes, hey, man, just hang on to the smoke clears, and I'll see what I can do. And I'm like, man, and I was like a kid. I was like, I almost pissed myself. I was so excited. And so this is about the time my mother, and then a little scan on ahead a little bit farther in January, my mother was dying of cancer, and I was going to Kentucky. And I got a call the day before that I had to go to Kentucky. And I get a phone call from Billy's secretary. Billy's secretary says, I need to get your address. Billy wants to send you something. And man, beep, beep, beep. All the bells went on, the lights. I was like, oh, really? What is it? And she goes, well, I can't tell you. It's a secret.
Wow.
Shit. So I give her my address. Then I get off the phone. I was like, how am I going to figure this out? I need to figure out what this is going to be. It's going to show up tomorrow. I'm going to be leaving. So I call her back, and she goes, I said, well, I got to go to Kentucky. And my mom's, and I gave her the story. She said, well, it's a guitar. Oh, man, it was incredible. I was like, oh, I'm going to open that case. It's going to be friggin' pearly, I get home. I'm waiting. The FedEx is supposed to show up that morning. I'm standing at the door because the car is running. I got to go. As soon as this package shows up, I'm going to Kentucky to be with my mom. And all of a sudden, FedEx truck opens the door up. This little girl gets out. She's got this box. And I'm like, that's not a guitar case box. And she walks up the door holding it with like maybe one hand, and hands me this thing, and it's kind of soft. And there's nothing really hard in here. And I get inside and I cut the top open and I reach in, and I pull out a Gibson headstock. And there's this guitar in there it's an SG. And it's the most hideous brown, green, gold hardware SG you'd ever see. And it was hideous. It really was for me, because I'm such a purist about, that stuff, which is you look for, you'll see a Les Paul. You know what I mean? It's like, that's shit for me, And so that's
he just showed me was that what was that? Is that a 59 or?
It's well, this is a 59. It's a 58.
Reissue?
Yeah, yes. I got back in 2000 and
Sunburst. It looks great, man.
It is great. It's killer guitar. But so that being said, it had 8s on it too. By the way, this guitar was strung with 8s, which no matter if I smoked weed or not smoked weed, I could still not play this guitar. It didn't work. But I remember getting in the car and I'm driving to Kentucky, and all the air's out of my balloon now. It's like, oh, come on, really? And I get a phone call, and it's Billy. And I answered the phone. He goes, did you get the guitar? I said, yeah. He goes, ha, 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 ha. I started laughing, cackling like a damn kid about busting me on this. And he goes, well, we've been really liking these guitars lately. We get them and we go through them and take, they're changing out all the pickups. And Elwood's his guitar tech. And Elwood actually is a Kentucky guy. And, it's the chain, the circle is connected somehow. And but he said, yeah, they love this guitar, and I still got the guitar in the closet. It's like, I can't do anything.
That's too bad, man. Oh, that's kind of.
But that was my Billy story.
Yeah,
best that he would do that.
That's tough, man. You want to, your expectations are one thing. It sucks when you have a certain thing and then it doesn't.
But it's still the best ever because, I mean, I've actually got this freaking guitar that Billy gave me. So,
Totally. Where in Kentucky did you grow up?
Lexington.
What was your childhood like growing up there?
I mean, my childhood was great. It was my sister and I and my mom and dad. We lived there. Dad was a truck driver. Mom stayed home. Dad, he was a piece of work, and he's gone now too. He died in 2013. Yeah, but a good man, and he took care of us. He was a good father.
I wanted to ask you a question because you mentioned about your dad being a truck driver. I grew up also in a very like blue collar family, and I was wondering if that influenced the way you maybe look at things and maybe like how your thoughts on becoming, quote, successful, whatever that is. Because I always struggled with that early on because it was very far removed from me, and it was somewhat intimidating, to be honest with you, achieving stuff in a weird way because I had such a blue collar background. I was curious what your experience was with that.
My dad, what I got, you don't realize what you get from your parents until they're gone. And then the regret is I wasn't kind enough, nice enough, and should have done nicer things and all these things. I think I was a good son, but I think about my dad. My dad, he wouldn't, if he built something, he wouldn't pull out a friggin' tape measure to save him out of hell. It was eyeballing this and eyeballing that. So it was always something screwed up, and I learned so much about what not to do from my dad than I did. But I am my dad. I'm absolutely him, and I catch myself all the time doing some of the most Clark Griswold shit that you can do, and go, what the hell? But he didn't. I think I'm just from such a working class, and when it came to, I was so good. I had a gift of just playing guitar, which I still just take as a gift, and I didn't really. I had no. Now, young men, young guitarists, young girls, because I hear so many great players on the internet now, and they have all this at their disposal, and they start talking marketing and all these things. I don't know that shit. I didn't know about career. I just knew that I wasn't going to get out of Lexington unless I had a ticket, and my ticket was Keith, and then Keith died. Right. So that there was a big traumatic blow, but I didn't have any kind of plan. I've never had a plan, and somebody say, what's your 10-year goal? Well, fuck, just to make money and not starve to death by the time, in 10 years.
I totally get that, man.
And my dad, I don't know if he ever had anything to do really with any of that. I know he was absolutely, I know my father loved me, but I don't think I actually came on the radar till I actually was on the Grand Ole Opry. And then it was like, oh, my boy's here. It just made the day. That qualified me then as being a great son. And but yeah, that's my dad's deal. That's what my effect he had on me. And he was a great guy. And I still, like I said, I am my dad.
Yeah. Oh. What were some of the maybe the lower points outside of when Keith? Was there anything else, or maybe some big obstacles you had to deal with, Lou, over your career, and how'd you get through them? Either music, business, personal, anything you feel like talking about?
I don't really have any. I wish, when I look down, and I want to tell you and view anybody's listening that, there's a list of questions that you gave me and asked me, and as I look at these questions, I go, I'm just not a guy with any kind of, I don't have the definitive yes or no or this and that. I'm kind of just roll with the program, and I never really. You asked me about the 3 records that I love. I don't fucking know. I like all records. What's your favorite singer? What's your favorite actor? I have no favorites.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like that kind of thing. There's a lot of guys that can sit there and literally dictate to you every nuance of a volume pot and what it does for them.
Yeah,
and I'm
for sure.
Hey, man, it turns on, it turns off. But at the same time, my first tool was a screwdriver. So I learned to work on guitars. I learned to refret guitars myself. I do all that. I learned to work on amplifiers myself. That's what my dad gave me. My dad was a mechanical dude. He was a combat engineer, World War II. And he worked in, I think, the train. You know, he was that guy. He did a lot of that kind of stuff, but he was a mechanically minded guy. And I love tearing shit apart, you know. And and a lot of that comes with its negative side too. And I remember when I think back to looking at all, as you move, you start looking at all the shit you gathered up, you know. And I have boxes of parts and and I work on guitars for people and charge money for it sometimes. I have, and I don't do that anymore. But when I look at all this stuff, I go, wow, it's such a distraction from what you really should have been doing, which is play your friggin' guitar more and learn how to play bebop. Yeah, be Charlie Christian. Don't worry about the fret job on the guitar and all these things. And that's, I don't know. So, yeah.
It's very good, man. It's all good. Do you have any advice you would have given to your younger self?
Be diverse.
Be diverse?
Mm-hmm.
As far as what you're playing and what you're listening to, or all the above?
Actually be diverse in work. Just don't have all your eggs in one basket. And that's been me. And that's what I've done. And, there's some cats that have a multiple. And that's why I've done, as far as just whatever, work on stuff, do whatever for people. I used to say, I'm the best free guitar setup anyone ever got, Hey man, can you help me with my guitar? And I go, yeah, sure. But just be diverse.
Yeah.
Once you and now everybody knows that, right? Yeah. I mean, all these younger guys understand all this so well, and everybody's got their, and I am a pretty in tune with modern social media and computers. I'm not like some kind of archaic guy that doesn't have to turn on the computer.
Sure.
But they've got that, man. They got everything. They've got it at their disposal. And I've never heard such incredible guitarists anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're all incredibly gifted in front of the computer. See what they do at the gig, that's another story, but they sure sound great over that damn phone, man, when I'm listening down to it on Instagram.
Yeah.
I go, wow. Wow, I couldn't get that right. I've never had that right hand, and I don't know how you still get that right hand, but I wanted to be B.B. King. B.B. King didn't worry about his right hand.
No, for sure, man. Let's talk gear for a few minutes. Is that what's your go-to guitar, and what other two would round out your top three?
Man, well, I'm a traditionalist, so I'm always a Fender guy or a Strat. I mean, I played Strats, Tellys, that kind of thing. 335, Les Paul, SG. Makes me happy, I like holding those guitars, and I really just like the way I like looking in the mirror and go, man, nice. That's one of those kind of things. It's like, because it's like what my heroes play.
Yeah.
We're always just trying to be our heroes, and we fail at that. So then you just become you, and, but I guess right now I'm playing this, and this is it's a parts guitar, and remember Blind Faith?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Double bound sunburst telly body with a Strat neck on it, which is Brownie from his Brownie guitar. I love that guitar. I love looking at the guitar. I love everything about that neck, because Eric Clapton's solo record, when I sit there and watched him when I saw him sitting in that chair with that Strat, I always go, oh my God. And in fact, why does one always want that guitar? I always had this guitar around, and I've always had I've never owned a 57 or 58 Strat in my life, but I've always had one that looks like this.
So Lou's holding up a sunburst Strat with a maple neck.
And it's just always been, but I haven't played it. I'll do it on recordings and session stuff. I'll pull Strat out because if it's need be. But lately, when I go out on live gigs, I've got getting back to the Blind Faith, I put together that guitar in a little replica of that.
The telly body with the Strat neck.
Yeah, yeah, and it's great, and it can take a ass kicking by the airlines, and I'll stick it in the bag. And when they say you have to put this guitar in baggage, and I'll go, I don't give a shit, stick it wherever you want to, because it always comes out.
Yeah,
Everybody
says that about tellies, man.
Yeah, so that guitar, and I don't know, I've never really had a big, getting back to what I said about no definitive yes or no, what I like or whatever. I don't really have any. I don't covet.
Yeah, there's no, okay, I get it.
I don't really. It's like, you want to buy that Strat right now? Whoop out the cash, baby, because I'll make another one.
Yeah.
It's like, and the only guitar I have possibly at all that I would not want to get rid of is a 1982 reissue, and it's the only thing original on it right now is the neck plate and the body and the screws. Everything else has been swapped out, changed out. It's got a different neck on it, and I've got to put a humbucker in the
different neck. Wow.
And, all this stuff. But that guitar was one I've had since early 80s, and so that would be it.
What's from a tone standpoint, what's the best guitar and best amp that you've owned or played through?
Well, I have a 1966 Marshall Super PA head here that was given to me. It didn't work, missed the mains transformer, and I had that thing rebuilt before. And that's how I learned to work on amps, because after I had this dude rebuild it for me, he charged me like double what he was going to charge me. But I took it. But it's a 66 Super PA head. I had EL30. I had KT66s in it. It's just basically a tube, a JT45, and it's a great sounding head. And I love Celestion speakers. I love Eminence speakers as well, and because they're a bunch of Kentucky boys, and they've been very kind to me. So it's like whatever. There's some great speakers on both of those companies.
And as far as guitar, best sounding guitar you have? Best
sounding guitar
that you've played, rather.
I don't really. I actually just got rid of one that was probably the best sounding one I had, and it was an actual '73 Tele Deluxe. The mocha brown looking things that makes you want to puke.
Yeah, what made you get rid of it? Just time?
Man, I just needed the bread, and it was like, fuck it, see you.
Yeah.
How much I didn't care,
Yeah.
Didn't care. Sound like my sister saying care. I didn't care. Yeah, so that guitar was a great sounding guitar, and use it on a bunch of stuff, and it's, but it doesn't matter.
Man, did you grow up with near Greg Martin or with any of the Headhunters?
I know Greg. I know those Headhunters guys, but they were Glasgow.
Yeah.
Glasgow's more southern west,
Okay.
Kentucky, Lexington is dead center college town.
Okay. Well, Greg was the other guy. Greg was not from. Greg doesn't have an accent. The other three guys have an accent.
They're very thick.
Yeah, he was explaining to me because he came from one place and the other guys are from another place in Kentucky, and there's no accent really where he's from, and there is obviously where those guys are from. So, man, what is the? This is a tough question. What's the best decision you've ever made?
Referring to music?
Anything.
Best decision I've ever made. Being with my wife.
Yeah, that's what I figured you were going to say. Man, show me that tattoo again, because I have no tattoos, but if I had one, I would think I might get something like that.
Yeah, actually, this is the money right here, man. You know why? Because when it comes anniversary time, I immediately go, hang on a second.
I'm pretty good with that. I kind of think I should have something. I kind of like that idea. I have to let that sit in my head and kick around. Lou, what's the most important thing you've learned about yourself, man, throughout, your career experience, and through life in general?
Man, I believe in, it's all about love and compassion, and we're all works in progress. And, this is all about family for me. It's all about my family and my kids and my grandkids. And I got 5 grandkids, and I got all my kids we're all together. My son was in the military our son, Chris, he's been in the military since, 89.
Okay.
And he retired, and him and his wife live in Dixon, which is not very far, about 30 minutes from me.
That's great.
And my granddaughter, Kelsey, who's 24, lives in Nashville, and my grandson, Sam, lives in Eagleville. And these are all in the same surrounding areas as Nashville now. So all those times I laid my head on the pillow at night and was worried about the kids, they're here now. And
That's great.
Absolutely incredible. My daughter and the grandkids, and just being a part of my grandkids' lives, and just trying to help them along the way and give them as much skills as they can get from me, That's about it. And that to me is life.
I've seen pictures of you with your granddaughters on Facebook, and it's really nice because you could tell you're in the zone right there, man. You can see the energy is good there, man. And
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, what else is there?
You're right.
I mean, I know this is called Everybody Loves Guitar, but
don't say it's not about guitars. Don't say that.
I was going to say it's totally about guitars and grandkids.
Yeah, man. No, I agree. My kids are all older. One of them's still at home, but they all live actually within 10 or 15 minutes. And I'm really happy about that because I see them all the time. And, I speak to them all the time. I like that they're that close. They're far away. They're far enough away and they're close enough. You know what I'm saying? So, and I like, the Thanksgiving, everybody was over here. It was just really nice. And
perfect. And you're a gentler soul now. So
yeah, right. Much more. Yeah. It's funny because, they'll all laugh now. Like, I'm the calm one in the house, and they're like, "What the fuck is going on?"
they go, "Daddy's drinking again."
Yeah, and as if and I'm like, "Come on, guys, just stop arguing." Everybody turns around and looks at me like, "What the?"
Isn't it crazy? The older you get, and the more you see how even when I was younger, my relatives, and I had an aunt, Eleanor is her name, and she's been gone a long time. But she, life is a biatch, and she'd come over and she'd have she'd have a 40 of beer in a plastic bag, one of those kind of things, or 2 or 3 beers. And I just remember being a young guy going, I can't fucking believe what's she doing? And I mean, I'm the guy that did nonstop drinking and smoking weed when I was a kid.
Right.
And be in judgment of my aunt, Yeah. And as life goes on, I look back and go, Aunt Eleanor was right on point, baby. life. Just sometimes that's what you do, man.
Mm-hmm.
You have to coping skills, and whether or not it's good or bad will be up to somebody else to judge. But you get calmer. You should be calmer,
Yeah, mine was conscious because I said I'm done with stress, and it didn't happen overnight, of course. It takes, you got, like you said, we're all a work in progress, and I'm still working. But yeah, I was just done.
Same for me, man. It's like in every regard, music or personal. I don't know what tomorrow has to bring for me. And
yeah,
hey,
that's the truth.
I don't. And when getting back to what I was saying about your podcast and being guitar important, it's not a life and death thing, Family and love and compassion is life and death. That's what And so when I say that about guitar, I don't really take it that serious anymore. I don't, I remember probably taking a lot more serious and being a lot more pissed off about what I'm not, but I've never been ungrateful, and I've never been looking at anybody with any kind of, it was not it's your fault that I didn't do this or do that. It's nothing like that. So
yeah, you don't come off anything remotely like that, man, to be honest with you. So I didn't. You seem like you're real good about taking responsibility for you.
Yes, which is painful.
Yeah, but it is, and because I'm the same way, and I'm like, well, fuck, I know if I take responsibility, somehow I'll work shit out. If I'm waiting for somebody else, maybe not so much, So,
Right.
It's a blessing and a curse, like a lot of things.
Hey, we were talking about the Strat. I just had a thought about it, and I don't know why. I was thinking about the Sunburst Strat, and I always have to have that Sunburst Strat. And I remember the first time I got an 82 reissue again of when they reissued those things. They did the Strat, Sunburst, Maple Neck, which is right up my alley, and then that same yellow, 52 reissue looking guitar. But I remember getting my guitar signed by B.B. King. And I had that guitar, and it was a club in Lexington, Kentucky. BB just got through playing, and I stood in a meet and greet line with my guitar, and I didn't understand anything about Sharpies or markers. And I'm in this line with my guitar out of the case, just my guitar, to go meet BB King. And I met BB King, and I said, Mr. King, would you please, and I had a pocket knife. I said, I want you to carve BB at the top of my guitar. And he looked at me, Craig, and he goes, oh, Lucille wouldn't want me to do that to another man's guitar. And I was like, oh my God, did you hear? It was like listening to Santa Claus talk or some shit like that for me. It was like unbelievable. And that was one of those moments. And he signed it. But I later took that signature off because, like, once again, I don't covet these things and didn't think anybody else would like that signature, and I had to sell it. So,
man, I think I told you, I think I might have talked to you about this first time we talked. I think Greg Forsman did the same thing at a club when BB was down in Kentucky playing.
Really?
I'm almost
I love Greg Forsman.
He's great. I'm trying to. Somebody had this. They went in and they were in town. God, it's got to be Greg. I only had a small handful of guys from Kentucky. It has to be him. Next time you see him, bounce it off him. I bet you guys are at the same show, because he said he stood up on stage and he was waiting, and there was a line around the stage, and everybody was waiting to see B, and he was like on a platform maybe 2 feet above, and everybody went up to see him, something like that. And I just had a vague recollection it was Greg, man. I don't know.
Yeah, Greg and I, guitar dudes. We did a little band together. Well, it's his band. He goes, let's do this band. We called it the Live Players. And it was the answer for the Players, which was the Brent Mason and all those great players band. So we were just going to be the Live Players because of our touring, history and stuff like that. And but it was always a blast to play with Greg, and he's such a musical force, man. And to hear him sing and play guitar and his projects that he's done, I'm his biggest fan, man. When it comes to that, and a good dude,
very good dude, man. He's got that 335 down.
Yeah.
Anything you're still interested in doing or learning to do?
I really like, I like producing, and I kind of like doing that. So whether or not I'm learning to do it, I pretty much know what I'm kind of doing. As Ray Charles said, does it sound good? And that's my question, and that's my answer. Yeah, that's what you do. So that's what I've been, I like that. And so that's probably the only thing I can think of, really. And I always work on my own plan. I'm always working on trying to be a man that has something to say in his chops, as opposed, because and I don't have to say any, it's weird because that you can overthink this thing, man. It's all about channeling music, and overthinking pretty much paints you in a corner. So I catch myself overthinking as I look on my desk right now, and I've got a stack of guitar picks, right? and I just keep going through these guitar picks thinking which one's going to make me play better with my right hand. And it doesn't, it just causes me heartache. And I think, just drop the fucking pick, man. Be Mark Knopfler, or whatever. And then you don't have to say so much. And when you do speak, you speak loud,
Man, I want to talk about your producing. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, and then I want to talk about some of your producing stuff, about a couple of projects you have. 2 questions more, Lou. Toughest decision you've had to make, or most difficult thing you had to do?
Toughest decisions. I have no tough decisions that I had to do that I can think of. One thing about, when my mother and father passed, always thinking, if that even comes into the frame of what this question's about, but I never thought I could handle those moments, and we're always put to a test. And I know now that I can handle those, I didn't know that before. I had so much anxiety about, the day my mother and father would pass, would I be strong enough to handle it? And then, I was most definitely strong enough. But that would be my answer.
Yeah. Thank you, man. And the last question, what's the most important lesson your business has taught you?
Wish I knew more about business. I'm not a business guy. I'm my worst enemy when it comes to some stuff, so.
Man, I want to talk
I'm sorry that's not some.
No.
I wish I could give some fucking great answer like everybody else can, but I don't. I just don't have the answer, man.
Everybody gives different answers, man. There's no the truth is the great answer. That's it. And you just gave the truth. So you did, honestly, man, everybody's, everybody's path is different. Everybody has different shit going on. And, whatever you're doing there, I see a beautiful Christmas tree in front of a fireplace with a shit ton of gifts for your family. So whatever you're doing is fucking working. So
thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it is working. It's really a true blessing.
Yeah, man. And that's where it's at. Hey, I want to talk about a couple of projects you got going on and tell my listeners about them. You got an album, a couple of things you're playing on, your sideman with Mo Pitney, and he's on Curb Records. You want to talk a little bit about that project?
Nothing. The Curb Records thing is not. I'm just a side dude that plays music with him and him and his lovely family, and we go out and play every shithole there is, kind of. It's kind of. And with the lack of better words. And we do the Opry and stuff like that. And I love doing the Opry, and I've done it for years and years, since the 80s. So, but that's Mo's deal. And I really, truly love the guy and love his family and doing that gig with him. And it's exactly where I need to be. I don't know where I need to be, but I'm not. I wish I could say I'm going to do, Sting's tour, but it's not going to happen. So Mo's what I'm doing at the moment. As far as, yeah.
Man, it's funny you said that. I just interviewed a guy yesterday. He did Sting's tour in late 80s, early 90s, and he wrote a book about it. It was real interesting. Yeah. That was weird. And talk about the project that you did produce that you got going on with Larry Redmond, and there's a CD coming out in January.
Well, and let me tell you this story. First off, let me preface this by saying it's once again, I'm not trying to downplay anything because it's all art, but this is a independent project. Larry Redmond is a friend of mine that I've known since high school. I met him at smoking a cigarette on the walkway at Bryan Station High School in Lexington, Kentucky, in probably 1973 or 2. And Larry didn't, played Fifth Hour. We did a rockabilly band, did Creedence Clearwater and Elvis and all this stuff. And then played some music with Larry in the 80s. He owned bars and did that stuff. I saw him last year. Went up because of a bass player friend of mine was dying, and went up to say bye to him at this. This is a classic story here. His name was Glenn Little. Great musician, great player. They called him Big Boy. He hated Big Boy, the name. I understand because I've always been a big boy, and I hated that myself. But he, when he got diagnosed with cancer, instead of having a memorial after the fact that everybody come and, awake or whatever, he wanted to have a gig, a show. So he did at this club up in Lexington, and he was going to sit in with all the bands he's played in, and all these people showed up and sat in and played their songs with him that they've played through the years. And he played every song with them. And I went up and jammed. And then I saw all these people I hadn't seen in years and years. And it was like a coming home for me because I'd just been away for so long that I didn't, just what life is. You just go on. And they're all my musician friends that I've known and played gigs with. So that got me wanting to make my reconnect tour. So I reconnected with Larry. Larry said, I'm at his place and he wanted to do a project. And I was like, sure, big deal. Yeah, let's do it. And we ended up cutting 6 songs. And he sings freaking great. He's a great country singer. And when I first started, I was kind of just a little, I was like, we're doing vocals. And I was like, man, give me another pass. And he was like, he knew exactly what he was doing, but I didn't know exactly if he knew what was going on. He's done quite a few projects in Nashville, but I didn't think anyone had ever done something that I wanted to hear. And I'd heard him and I didn't like it. So I'd always kind of had this thought in my mind, one of these days, man, I'd like to do something like that with him or, whatever. Or I'd like to hear it done for him because I didn't see myself as a producer. So long story short, I got the players together. We cut 6 songs. It turned out great. He sings his ass off. These songs are great. And it's very much, Americana-ish, / alt country, whatever you want to call it. But I had great players playing on it, and I played all the guitars on it and did a lot of the stuff here and produced. And it's turned out great. And I'm really excited about it coming out for him. I'm really excited for him because, it means shit to me, man. It means shit to me that I had to put a stamp on it. It was mine, but it's his project, and I'm happy for him.
And that's coming out in January?
Yeah.
Great, man. And maybe you come on here to talk about it if you want.
I'd love to.
Yeah, man. And it's Larry Redmond, Redmon. So look for that. And Lou will come back here on the show and talk about the record when it drops. And man, happy birthday again to you, man. And I really appreciate your time. And I'm glad. And I hope this went good or is better than you expected. So
I hope so. I hope it was good for you.
No, man, it was great. Yeah, I love talking to good people, man. There's nothing nothing beats that for me.
Yeah.
Listen, man, thanks for everything. Have a great holiday, and thanks for your time and for your kindness and your good stories, man.
You're so welcome. You guys have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, brother. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it with a friend on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks to Lou Toomey for spending time with us. I truly appreciate it. If you want to look Lou up online, his last name is spelled Toomey. Hey, let me ask you this. If someone is interested in maybe reaching out to you to doing some production work or to see if you're a fit to do some production work, how do you want them to get a hold of you? Are you on Instagram or something? Or
Instagram, Facebook, all those god-awful social sites. So.
Great. All the god-awful social sites. Look up Lou, and if you're interested in having him doing some work from you, contact him, reach out, be specific, tell him what you're looking for, and give him some links so he could check out your music, and he'll let you know if it's a fit, and who the hell knows what could happen. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com, sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.